I don't know if you've been keeping up with the resistance, Ryan, but you know, Chuck Schumer's got it down.
I'm leading it.
Oh, you're leading it.
Oh my God.
Do you take your orders
he's my
from
second
Chuck?
in command. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm a huge Chuck guy. I'm a huge Chuck fan. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, like, you must have then, as the leader of the resistance or the lieutenant or, you know, working alongside Chuck, you must have also gotten the memo, from Cory Booker. For people that are not familiar, it was reported that Cory Booker had a meeting with his Senate colleagues about how to more effectively use social media.
Oh, thank God.
I want them to use social media, but I don't really think I want Chuck to use social media. Here he is trying his darndest. And I wish I could just laugh at this guy and be like, all right, Grandpa, trying to use social media. There are no stakes here. It's funny. But this is the guy that's supposed to be the leader of the Democrats in the Senate. All right, maybe this will be rousing. Here we go.
Today began the long budget process, and it became very clear what the number one goal of the Republicans is: to give their billionaire buddies a tax break and have it be on your back. We Senate Democrats are going to expose them. We're going to lift up the curtain and show that everything else they do is to help hide the fact that their billionaire buddies are going to get a tax break under their proposal. Why does Donald Trump talk about the Gulf of America and putting hotels in Gaza and annexing Canada? He wants to hide the fact from you that their main goal, what they're really pursuing on the floor of the Senate, is giving their billionaire buddies a tax break.
Okay.
Is that crazy? Is that ridiculous? These people are very rich. The veteran who needs health care isn't very rich. The elderly person who's in a nursing home isn't very rich. These billionaire buddies are rich already. And yet all they want to do is give them another tax break. Shame, shame, shame. We're going to fight it tooth and nail.
Okay, what do you stand for now? Thank you, Chuck. Again, it's not that bad. It's better than before. I'm trying so hard to not be an asshole.
These people are very rich.
Like, at a certain level, dude, like, you have to understand that you are not the man for this moment. Yeah. Hakeem Jeffries, it's a whole different can of worms where I genuinely think he's just like, Matt's made this point, of the post-Citizens United era, just a politician that has been bathing in corporate and donor money in a way that even the person who's picked him as his successor, Nancy Pelosi, I've got a million problems with her. She was claiming China was funding pro-Palestine demonstrators outside of her house. Lots of crazy things that she said and stuff I've disagreed with. But it's almost like she came in from an age where, prior to this, where they were still doing politics in a way that was about combating Republicans, and she could count votes, and she's shrewd about where the public stands on certain things. Hakeem Jeffries, actually, I'm sorry. This is the clip. It's only 20 seconds. This was his reaction coming out of the meeting with Hochul and a bunch of other top-ranking Democrats about removing Eric Adams, which Hochul has the power to do. A man who is the mayor of New York City, who is currently being extorted publicly, openly, brazenly by the Republican president of the United States to enforce immigration raids against New Yorkers and go along with his agenda, or else they're going to re-up this prosecution of him. This is how Hakeem Jeffries responded, our Democratic leader in the House.
Mayor Adams has a responsibility to decisively demonstrate to the people of New York City that he has the capacity to continue to govern in the best interest of New Yorkers.
The capacity
as opposed to taking orders from the Trump administration. Mayor Adams has.
What do you mean he can't demonstrate it because he's being extorted? Why are they giving him the opportunity to basically wiggle out of this and say that maybe he's being extorted, maybe he's not being extorted? No, he is. The Scalia clerk, Trump-appointed interim federal prosecutor at the Southern District Federalist Society, the Southern District of New York. Trump appointed her on January 21st, 2025, resigned, saying that this was what it is. So I'm not joking. Hakeem Jeffries is being more favorable to Republicans in his messaging about this issue than Trump's own Republican appointee at the head of the Southern District and the half dozen other prosecutors that resigned beneath her, refusing to implement the same order until they finally got their Bork. Here's some more. But God is on the throne. Presidents come and go. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about creeping fascism. We got some more, I guess, from Jeffries. Ken Klippenstein doing God's work. Just continuing to promote the most unflattering portrayal of this feckless leader.
Captain Chaos and the extreme MAGA Republicans spent last year promising to lower the high cost of living and running away from Project 2025 as if it didn't exist.
Okay, you guys.
Sorry, who's Captain Chaos?
Captain Chaos.
I'm unfamiliar. Who is that? Is that a new Marvel character? Who is that?
I mean,
who are we talking about?
He's gonna be maybe in Batman 7, the villain that they crop up to fight him.
You know who that appeals to? All the capitalists who don't want tariffs to fuck up their mergers and acquisitions schedule. That's the only people these people can talk to.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, he's being outflanked by a majority of his caucus. I don't think I've seen this kind of reaction to Democratic leadership from the base of the Democratic Party and their inability to lead since I've been following politics. And perhaps it's just the lack of familiarity, and people are so angry that they don't have this built up, like, yeah, I kind of like Pelosi, yeah, I like Harry Reid, whatever, where they can, at a certain, during the Biden years and during the Trump years, Democratic voters approve of Nancy Pelosi at high clips. It's like 70, 80%, right? Fools. But maybe now that Jeffries is kind of a relative unknown, and the first thing they see of him is him going, what leverage do we have? And people are also feeling betrayed by, like, I've been watching MSNBC for 8 years in the Trump era, and they've told me the most important thing is to resist Donald Trump. And then Morning Joe goes and kisses the ring and says, okay, we're going to be hands off on our criticisms now because we're afraid. There is a disconnect from what the voters want and what we're seeing from the party. And it's much more pronounced, I think, with the Washington people who are bathing in this DC consultant class and all that big money. And then what we see with Democratic governors like Pritzker, who's like, I'm going to fight him. I'm going to protect New Yorkers. Whitmer, I'm going to do the same. Walz, the way he governed. There's hope there, but it's really hard to find it in Washington. And there are just a handful of people like AOC and the squad and a few senators, Sanders, of course, Warren, et cetera, doing the actual resistance. But the rest of them are really hopeless.
Hakeem Jeffries knows who he wants to resist. Just 3 hours ago, Leader Jeffries' statement on the anti-Semitic protests in Borough Park, the violent anti-Semitic rhetoric directed at Jewish residents. First of all, I'm not going to read any more of this bullshit lie by a Zionist asset that ultimately cannot fight fascism because he's too compromised by corporate and Zionist interests. That protest is about land sales in the West Bank. The fact that people who call out anti-Semitism cannot be honest about the reason for these protests in certain areas is malicious, or it is morally cowardly to the utmost extent. And anybody who does it, including Jeffries here, the leader of the minority party that is supposed to be resisting fascism, spends more time smearing protests as anti-Semitic that are protesting illegal land sales. These guys can't do it. Because Hakeem Jeffries is more concerned with what AIPAC wants than what the American people wants.
Yeah. And it's amazing to me to see how the Democrats react to Donald Trump winning the popular vote by a plurality. In the end, he got less than 50%. And they're acting like this is the Obama 2008 mandate. And you know how the Republicans responded in 2008? And Obama had literally at one point for a very short period 60 Democratic senators. McConnell went into a room and said, we are going to make sure that Obama's a one-term president. And they failed, but they did obstruct basically all of the most ambitious agenda items that he had. And they were extremely successful in the midterms throughout the next 6 years of Obama being president. And so we could have just basically copy pasted this model and changed the R to D. But instead, this is the opposition that we have. I mean, I wonder where this goes. And I wonder if there's like an actual grassroots fury that can be channeled into something like this. We're seeing that there are a lot of federal workers who have been fired who are looking to run for office. And I wonder if that includes primarying guys like Hakeem Jeffries. I wonder if that includes primarying guys like Jerry Connolly. I think that that's a distinct possibility, but it's the kind of thing where it's like, what's the mechanism that we should look at right here? Because Justice Democrats, we've had them on the show, but they don't really have the same resources that they used to. Maybe we should be doing a bit more of that. But I also think, DSA plays a role in this as well.
And ultimately, like, the question is, why is it so hard to emphasize people over profit? And the trouble is, it's because that's something that's pretty bipartisan. This profit is more important. That was the response to the 2008 financial crisis. We need to capitalize the banks more than the people getting out of the homes. When people like me were upset about privatizing NASA and stuff like that, saying, hey, that's going to have bad long-term consequences, now it's Elon Musk. Like, you have to be deliberate about this sort of stuff, and you can't hope that the profit motive is going to save us. It is going to lead to planes crashing.
Dark Soul writes in, don't worry, they're on it. Jamie Harrison is coming out and calling Ken a racist for criticizing Jeffries so much.
Apparently Ken never goes after Chuck Schumer, which is news to me.
Well, he's also anti-Semitic, so that is
That wouldn't prove anything. Good point.
Duh. Yeah.
Jamie Harrison, I mean, can we get that guy a job? Like, manual labor, maybe?
He already is sitting pretty. I mean, he did what he needed to do. He made sure that Biden got to run for re-election and made sure that South Carolina came first in that primary schedule, saving our democracy from Trump.
Did you see Stephen A. Smith?
No.
1 second.
Okay. Well, I'm over that stuff. I find it, I love, and the thing is I have a love in my heart for Stephen A. as a New York sports fan. But this whole dalliance with running for president is pissing me off.
He's kind of all over the place, that guy, Stephen A. Smith. I don't really know what he believes sometimes. He's, I never know.
He's friends with Mark Levin.
Say.
I don't trust him as far as, I could throw him.
He's friends with Sean Hannity. That's why he keeps getting those media hits and debating him. He does a good job because he's skilled at that, but
and he's attuned to discourse and not afraid to say things that a lot of people are afraid to say, which,
But he describes himself as a centrist, and I'm not necessarily down for that. And I don't know, I just can we have a politician run? It doesn't work the same way on the left with celebrities. I'm sorry. I want people who have actually done things like Tim Walz. That's not it, actually. It's this one here. What do we have? Stephen A?
Stephen A. Smith talking with one of the Podjon guys, Vitor maybe, calls out the Democratic establishment for constantly trying to choose their leaders. If you see that one, Bradley.
Ooh, that's not bad then. I'll take this over him essentially saying that, trans athletes are ruining women's rights, he said the other day.
Democrats were boring. We're the NBA skills competition where Wemby's cheating while Trump is the USA-Canada hockey game where there's 3 fights in 10 seconds and you can't look away. And I don't know how to compete with that. We don't have a leader who can compete with that. We don't have a party that can compete with that. We don't have a message that can compete with that.
But tell why. You can't compete with that, and you don't have that. I'm not talking about you specifically, of course.
I know.
About the Democratic Party. You don't know that, and you can't compete with that for the biggest reason of all. Because y'all are too busy trying to pick candidates for the American people instead of listening to the American people tell you who they want. The last Democrat that the American people told you they wanted was Barack Obama.
Oh.
Hillary Clinton.
It's her turn. Bernie.
Bernie Sanders had momentum.
Oh.
It's Hillary's turn. Joe Biden captured momentum because Representative Clyburn got involved in South Carolina, saved his behind, but it's really, really his turn. Okay? He has no business running for re-election, but everybody went for it, knowing he was supposed to be transitional. He's going to be 81 years of age. Then you sit up there. He doesn't have a primary. Then he goes on the debate stage, embarrasses himself. Then y'all still let him take 3 damn weeks to walk away instead of getting the hell out there immediately so you can see if there's somebody other than Kamala Harris who could be the Democratic nominee. Then she gets the nomination, and everybody wants to act like she's the rock star all of y'all wanted all along. Oh, my God, let's throw up our hands and just say, hey, she is the one, when you know good and damn well that wasn't the truth. Meanwhile, Trump has been around since 2015. They had Christie, they had Kasich, they had was it Fiorini? I believe her name is.
Yep.
You had later on, you had DeSantis, you had Nikki Haley, you had Ramaswamy, you had all of these people. It didn't matter. We went through lawfare and all this stuff. It didn't matter. They looked the public in the face and they said, "We want him. We don't care what y'all want," and forced the Republican Party to capitulate to the demands of their constituency. That's what they did. The Democrats somehow, some way have gotten away with ignoring the constituency and compelling the constituency to capitulate to what they want as a party. And that is the problem. And that's why I said it all needs to go. Some of those candidates need to go. The pundits, the strategists, they need to go. Whoever was involved with the latest election, from a strategy standpoint, every one of them should be fired. Every one of them.
I'm back on board, question mark? No, I mean, he's a great critic. Being a critic is a very different role than being president, I want to be clear. But everything he's saying there is accurate. And that's been a lot of it's echoed a lot of what I've been saying about the last, in the postmortems, about the lack of democratic responsiveness. And both with the genocide in Gaza, which is what a majority of his base wanted. I mean, there was a poll in YouGov that said only like 9% of Democratic voters sympathize more with the Israelis right now than and then it's like,
and I would encourage
the
them
majority
to be Republicans, please. I don't want them to vote in my primaries.
Yeah, the majority say Palestinians, and then below that is like both. And so my point is just like that, between that and not listening to their base on that, and then also not listening to the base on, we want somebody other than Joe Biden. You can't talk about democracy and Donald Trump's very real threat, as we're seeing right now, without showing a responsiveness to those two key issues. It made it feel like it's not just about saying vote for us on election day. It's about saying we're going to be the people, the party that responds to the will of the people more directly, as opposed to the right. And for all of Trump's many, many faults, he has that transactional quality to them where he actually cares about feeding something to the masses, even if it is just like, hey, I'll bring RFK Jr. on board, who could have shaved off a few percentage points of my total, and then I will make him Human Health Services Secretary, and I will appease the Maha constituency. That's something that the Democrats don't do. They do what, Jamie Harrison does. We're going to make it so that we have no primary process and that the 81-year-old guy gets to the forefront, gets to the top again. Lydia Rose, Stephen A. is a tough one. I see a clip and get screaming mad because he said something stupid, or incredibly impressed that he stands up for the right thing. I don't get it. He's a
blowhard.
Lydia.
Yeah, he's a sports talk guy.
It's sports talk, which I have a deep, some of the better arguers. He literally has made arguments for a living for 40 years, and of the New York sports personalities, he's actually maybe the most sane, like more than Anita Bryant. Wait, what's her last name? Anita Bryant is the politician, right? Yeah. No, Anita Bryant is the ESPN woman, right?
I don't watch ESPN.
Okay. Or is Anita Bryant the anti-feminist person?
Anita Bryant's
I know who you're talking about.
Anita Marks. Better than Anita Marks, better than Mad Dog, whatever. But yeah, I mean,
remember Jim Rome?
He's a great critic. Oh, yeah. And he would be a great Democratic, if they had the right candidate. He'd be a great surrogate. Like, take Stephen A. any day over Mark Cuban, for example. But Kate in LA said, I want more future talk, less past talk. Dems suck. We know. No, I know. I'm trying to balance that too.
We're going to completely redo the same mistakes if we don't understand why Hakeem. You can't talk about why the party is not standing up to fascism without talking about why the selection process that led to Hakeem Jeffries being the leader of the party.
I agree. I just also want to, we're trying to we did a lot of Trump stuff yesterday. It's a balancing act of what Matt describes and then also responding to the horror show that we see today. But fair point. Black-pilled Kiwi says, I don't know why you guys are so surprised about how the Dems are acting. I think the only ones who realize that the Rubicon has been crossed, and if you're too adversarial to the current administration, you're likely to end up out of a window soon. They don't have popular support, so they'll capitulate to save themselves.
They do have popular support that could easily be called upon, but they're too corrupt to actually get on the back of it. There's a huge popular will to resist this administration. And the reason that they can't really harness is because they can't simply say things like, except for people like AOC or Bernie or the Social Democrats, that people should be put above profit, which is what is meant when Trump and co say efficiency.
Greg from Arkansas says R.M. Brown is the mouthpiece of our generation. Which generation? Every single one.
Yes.
I don't get that one, but
I'll Venmo that guy later.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.